Hello, Soulfire. Welcome to the Chronicles of Chiron, the Lion, the Witch, and the Healer. My name is Chrystopher, the AstroMedium, and we have a very special guest with us tonight. Scott, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Scott Robinson. I'm a friend of Chris's. I'm a medium and a psychic and a healer. Pleased to be here tonight.
I'm pleased to have you as well. So tonight we're talking about a really misunderstood topic. It's gaining a lot more popularity in the metaphysical communities, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And you specialize in this topic, and it's not necessarily a topic that should be reserved for the intelligent few. Everyone should know about this, but it's a very complicated set of energies and information. So we're going to break some of that information down for everyone tonight. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Chronicles of Chiron, and Chiron is the wounded healer archetype in astrology. So on this show, we talk about a lot of different metaphysical healing modalities and ways that you can transmute your pain into power and quicken your ascension and awakening process. So Scott, tell me about the 7 rays and the type of healing that you offer.
Thank you, Chris. The 7 rays are basically a 7-fold differentiation of the one source energy. It's broken down first into a triplicity. You might think of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, life, quality, appearance. Yes. And then that's further broken down into the 7 rays. These rays are actually entities, if you will. They're beings, very high beings. You might call them lesser gods, if you like, if that works for you.
Sure.
And everything that exists in our universe, everything is made out of and by these 7 rays.
Now, you said the number 7, okay, which is one of my favorite numbers, and a lot of people on here resonate with the number 7. It's a very powerful number, very spiritual number, and they're automatically going to start associating the number 7 with the amount of chakras that we supposedly have, which we know we have more than that now. But how does the 7 rays relate to the 7 chakras, or do they at all?
That's a good question, and they do, in fact. Now, like you said, we have more than 7 chakras, but we have 7 main chakras. Most people acknowledge that. And each one of those chakras is primarily consists of a certain ray energy, 1 through 7. For instance, your crown chakra would be ray number 1, which is the chakra of power. Throat chakra would be ray number 5, which would be chakra of science and energy. But anyway, each one of those chakras is established as a ray energy. And when you combine these chakras in such a way and through alignment, you can take the alignment of those chakras and actually use it in healing. I call that life stream healing.
So what is life stream healing?
Life stream healing is taking, in a nutshell, you're basically using the 2 main energy streams coming from your soul, which is the energy of life and the energy of consciousness, each one anchored in the heart, one anchored in the head. You're combining those energies and you're focusing them through an alignment, through your third eye out into the world around you.
Now, you're saying you as if this is something people could practice on their own. Is this something that people can learn to do, or is this something that you...
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's teachable. It's learnable. I've used this healing without really knowing what it was since I was a child, but anyone can do it.
Well, tell me a little bit about your history with being a psychic, being a medium. What brought you to the place that you're at now? No, we can.
Yeah, that's I was
a pretty big.
I was a psychic since I was a child.
Okay.
And I had experiences and phenomenon around me. My parents knew it, but they really didn't speak of it. My father was a scientist. I grew up in a scientific town. But they knew that I was a little different, but like I said, we didn't really speak of it. I always just assumed that everybody thought kind of the same way I do and see things. I'm very much a clairvoyant, so I see pictures, scenes in my head. But as I went on, around the age of 30, I really got into metaphysics in a completely different way. And at that time, I began to learn about being an empath, which I'm very much an empath. And before then, I didn't really understand the full ramifications of that, which I do now more.
Right. Same.
You know, and being an empath, a lot of people that are empathic but don't really know it or aware of it, they have wild and crazy thoughts, and they wonder, oh my God, I must be crazy. And they don't realize that what they're picking up is out there around them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're picking up someone else's thought waves, someone else's thought forms.
Now,
And
you and I both have Mercury in Gemini, which Mercury in Gemini specifically resonates with the throat chakra. Okay, that is a throat chakra energy. And Mercury in Gemini is a Ray 5 energy, if I'm not mistaken. We could consider it to be, because it is so data oriented and processing oriented. So both you and I have this. Would you say that you and I having such strong mental energies in us, being empaths, makes us telepaths?
I would absolutely agree with that. In fact, I just got a big truth buzz, and so that tells me you just hit the nail right on the head there with that. What I will say, though, is as you study the rays and any form of healing, but life stream healing in particular, you begin to get an intuitive understanding of how these energies interact within each other. So when you say that you're an energy pendulum, which I absolutely know is true, by the way, what I'm saying, what that tells me from a ray standpoint is that you have a lot of seventh ray energy.
Yes, I do.
In your body. And seventh ray, as you know, is ceremonial magic or ritual, and it involves the meeting of matter and spirit together to form the third thing. And that's bringing that energy together.
For those of you watching, I have studied the rays. I've studied it with Scott. So there's a lot I already do know. There's so much to it. It's like astrology, and the rays tie into astrology, correct?
That's right, they do. Each major astrological sign has a ray characteristic. For instance, Aquarius is Ray 7, which happens to be coming into prominence now. And it explains a lot of the clashes in the world on all these different levels, because whenever you have an old energy going out and a new energy coming in, you're going to have a clash. And there's going to be moments or a momentary chaos, which leads to finally the dominant ray coming in and taking over, so to speak.
Which it would be dominant because that's the direction in which source is pulling us into. It's just the cycle.
That's right.
Okay, I got you.
The last ray that was in prominence was associated with Pisces, which is a sixth ray constellation. Now, they don't normally, the rays, these cycles, 20,000, 2,500 years, 25,000 years, 250,000 years, these cycles don't normally come in such a linear fashion. In other words, 6, 7, or whatever.
Right.
It happens to be now. And so every body, whether it's a person, whether it's a planet, whatever, has certain ray characteristics and a dominant ray about their features, such as their soul is on one dominant ray, and their mental and physical and emotional bodies are also on separate rays. The thing to note there is the alignment between all those rays, which is, some say, has never happened before in the history of humanity.
Well, there are astrological transits and occurrences and alignments that are talked about in the same way that have happened in the past 9 years, especially last year. Very rare occurrences happening. So all of this seems to be coalescing and lining up. So when did you start learning about the 7 rays, and where did this information come to you from?
Primarily about 30 years ago, I began studying the works of an author called Alice Bailey, who is, it's theosophy, basically the study of the evolution of the soul. And in that, and there's a series of 24 books, it's quite long. It talks about basically ray theory from A to Z. And it tells you, and besides what I've learned in the books, of course, when I work on people and through my own experiences, you intuit more information as you work, right?
Yes.
Because you can't work on somebody or even read somebody without also gaining from that experience, right?
So how do you use the rays in your mediumship or psychic readings? Because I know you do perform a type of healing that you call life stream healing. And this is the type of healing that you created through your own experience, we could say?
Yeah, I've always been a healer. I didn't know it really, didn't really believe it for a long time. I had a major healing experience when I was 7 that frankly, my parents never looked at me the same again. And so,
And I love that you were the age 7. I do have to point that out.
oh yeah, true. And, but when you use live stream healing is when we take these, when we focus and align these energies from the soul that I was talking about earlier, the live stream and the consciousness stream, when we focus those, we're going to focus those through the chakras, but it can be in different configurations depending on what we're trying to work on. And that can be in a basic model. And I would tell people what they would do is get yourself in a meditative kind of state or a relaxed state. Imagine a light globe above your head, however, 2 feet, 3 feet, 10 feet, whatever. And from that globe issues a strand of light that goes directly to your crown chakra, travels down through your throat into your heart chakra where it stays. And then from there, once you get this alignment stable and you can feel it, take that heart chakra line of energy and bring it up to your third eye. Again, get stable once you do that. And when you do that, you can project energy with a pushing technique, which frankly just has to be practiced. And once you do it, it's kind of like you'll know it when you do it.
Do you feel a sensation when, and is this broadcast from the third eye?
It is. The third eye with the power of the throat behind it, so to speak. The throat is the creative agency in this projection, right? The third eye is simply a receiver and transmitter of energy. It's what it's meant to do. And as that third eye develops, which the first real major awakening for a third eye for a lot of people happens around 28, 30, 31 years old. And when it happens first time, people's lives really get crazy. But it is a process. You're going to get through it. Just keep going.
I can attest to everyone. I did go through Kundalini awakening. It wasn't just the third eye, because I went through throat chakra opening, crown chakra opening, heart opening, all within those few years. I want to go back just a little bit to the 7 rays. Give us kind of a breakdown of what each ray is all about,
okay,
and the springing off process between the main 3 and the other 4.
Okay. To quickly break down the 7 rays, the first ray 1 is called the ray of power. It's a power ray. Ray 2 is love, wisdom, love ray. That's the heart, sun, love. Ray 3 is intelligent activity. It's the intelligence of matter. Matter, just by its very nature, has an intelligence about it. It moves, in other words.
It's interesting the way that you just put that, and it clicked for me, because it sounds very much, not 100%, but it sounds very much like Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, which are the first 3 signs of the zodiac, which represent this primal energy that's just existing, and it has this power and will. Oh, the power of the ego and the will, and to make things happen. And then you move into Taurus, where things solidify a little bit, but that's where we go into the heart. Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's love, it's feeling, it's sensuality. And then you move into Gemini, where energy takes on intelligence and then begins to process information. So I'm trying to put, for people watching, to put it into context for them. So you have the main 3. You have your ray 1, which is will and power. Ray 2, which is that unconditional love, or just, would you say?
Yeah, that's just love, and in general love. It's true love. And then ray 3, again, you can call it Father, Son, Holy Spirit, if that has a religious connotation, but it doesn't really. It's will, love, and intelligence, life, quality, and appearance. Yes. Whenever matter and spirit combine, they create a third thing. That's the appearance. That's the sun. That's the quality of these two coming together. Gotcha. Like in astrology, when you have transits or when you have conjunctions, you have things coming together or pulling apart. It affects your whole chart. We basically have 5 main rays that control us, and that are in our, what they call makeup at any one time. We have the soul ray, which stays the same lifetime to lifetime for quite a long while. Then you have the ray of the personality, which is a combination ray. Then you have the mental ray, you have the emotional ray, and then finally the physical ray. The personality is basically a controller of all the three lower rays.
And for those watching, because I knew we were going here, we don't want to mistake this with the ego, because in the Rays teaching, the word ego represents something else than the way that we would normally use in psychology or in our own healing work when we're doing ego work, that awareness of self. Your ego in the Seven Rays teaching is different. It's on a different level, correct?
It's the soul. The soul is the ego. The soul is the real person. Also in astrology, when you take the ray study into astrology, and it's basically those two are so intertwined, is you can't separate them.
Right.
But you get to a point where you reach what they call esoteric astrology. That's astrology of the soul versus astrology of the personality.
Got it.
And when you have soul-based astrology, all the rulers are different. The way they interact are different. But you intuitively hit on a very important triple when you talked about Aries, Taurus, and
Gemini.
Gemini, rather, yeah. So you hit on a very important triplicity there. But as a person, what happens is when you know your rays and you study the qualities, and these rays have a lot of different qualities about them. The ray 4 is harmony through conflict. Ray 5 is the ray of science. Ray 6 is the ray of idealism. And 7, of course, being the ray of ceremonial magic, or the combining of spirit and matter.
So
Heaven
we
to
have
earth.
3 of them over here, these main 3, red, blue, and yellow.
Okay.
Okay. Our primary colors over here, our main 3, and then the other 4 are nuanced or subtler.
Yeah, they're
versions of
the three main rays are called the rays of aspect. They're the main rays, and then the 4 are the rays of attribute, which kind of fine tune the qualities of the other 3 rays.
I understand. So that
but we have a combination of these rays in our equipment, and so you could be a ray 2 soul. That means ultimately everything drives you on a second ray aspect. But what happens with a lot of people is when they're going through the rays and they study the characteristics, they'll look at, there's good and bad characteristics of every ray depending on what point of evolution you attack this. And so what people do is they tend to say, oh, I want to be this ray, or I want to be that ray, because everybody wants to feel like they can love. But there's no choice in this matter, because our universe is a second ray, so everyone is on the love ray. Everyone.
Got it. Yes, that makes complete sense. So what you're telling me is there are 7 colors, basically, 7 ways in which this source light expresses itself. Exactly. 3 main ones that branch off, and the other ones are deeper, more refined expressions of that source energy.
Exactly.
And you have the 7 rays here, and then you have the levels in which these rays can play out. That's where this gets, just like you learn the signs in astrology, and then you learn the planets, and then you learn the houses, and then that's when people run for their life. They're like, I can't do this, I can't keep up. So I just want to make this a little bit easy for people. We got a rainbow of colors here, all resonating at different frequencies, holding their own energies, just like the signs of the zodiac or the planets, each one having their own personality or characteristics. And then you have the levels in which they can play out. That's what I want to talk a little bit more about.
Okay, so the soul is the all-encompassing you. That's who you are on every single level.
And if we're going to think of height or ascending or descending, because I don't like looking, because really we would talk about going in toward the soul, not up. That's just our physical way of representing something being higher than us or greater than us.
Exactly.
The soul is not necessarily greater. It's just the highest expression of who we are.
At this point in our evolution, the reason why we say that humans are a 5-tiered entity, because there's 7 rays. So there's other 2 aspects that are basically so far above the soul, the monad being one, and then the plane of Adai being pure spirit. Those are attainable, but not at this point in human evolution.
Right.
And even the highest masters that may have, Jesus, Buddha, whoever you might consider that to be, they are just beginning to recognize the two higher levels, right? Just
So you've got the basically source is here, the logos and the monad. So just where we start, where the one source begins to branch off and become more and become separate or other. And then you get to the soul.
Right, exactly. And so as you go down, as we evolve as people, you know, we have the different qualities of our mental or astral or physical bodies. And these also correspond to certain rays. Now, these bodies primarily, like say the mental body is either ray 1, 4, or 5, 5 being the scientific ray. We all know people that kind of seem like scientists. They think like scientists. 1 is a power ray. Just look at your average general. That's a power ray thinker, right? He's all about power, going to get to the root of something very quickly. They're not worried about quality. They're going to get down to it. And 4 is more of a qualitative, artistic. I hate to use the word artistic because there's artistic in all the rays. But 4 is more of a quality-oriented ray, where you combine or compare qualities of something, and that leads to a third thought, right? It matches the 7th ray very strongly.
Would you say Libra is 4th ray?
In fact, it is.
Oh, okay.
Libra is 4th ray.
We're on the same page here.
Yeah, and so, and some of the constellations, for instance, Taurus is also a 4th ray.
Yes,
on a soul
Libra
level.
and Taurus are both ruled by Venus.
Right, it's exactly right. And Venus is a 5th ray planet. So what you're combining is love and mind together.
Very good.
Right?
I love this.
And so when you know these aspects of your personality, you can begin to see not only how you operate in the world, but you can also see when you see your friends and co-workers, whatever, when you see them act a certain way, you can get an idea of, well, that's because this person is primarily a ray 1 mental body person or a ray 6 emotional body. And you can see this. And when you see it in your own self, it gives you more understanding of other people, and understanding ultimately leads to, you know, harmony. As you evolve through countless incarnations, you begin to, these lower subtle bodies, you begin to fine tune it. And eventually a point is reached when you can use those 3 lower bodies interchangeably and together. Now, up to this point, you really can't do it. You're kind of primarily focused one or the other through time. But once you can combine these 3 lower bodies, you combine them in the personality ray. And that ray is very powerful. I do want to say
very quickly, the personality, when you use the word personality, you are referring to what I would call the ego.
Yes. The personality is who we, for eons or ages, who we thought we really were. And now
the awareness of self that isn't really the true self. It's the idea of what the self is.
Exactly. So your real self is the soul, which in theosophy we call the ego. But the soul is the ultimate ruler. The overshadowing energy will always be the soul energy. And eventually, so there's got to be a contrast and a conflict between the personality, which has held control of the person for ages, and the soul, which is now, the personality has evolved to a point where the soul can now actually send energy directly into it. Before it couldn't do that.
Would you say that during spiritual awakening and this ascension process that we're going through on this planet, and other types of awakenings like Kundalini awakening, those are, and I know that term, what I mean for you is not enlightenment, but just when it begins to rise, like when it rises and it becomes more active than normal, and it causes a host of symptoms like what I went through.
Exactly.
Would you say that these are examples of the soul preparing to take its place in the physical form, even if it doesn't?
That's absolutely right. Ultimately, the soul, and this is absolutely guaranteed, just a matter of when, the soul will take control and will dominate the personality. But during that struggle and combat, you'll have lifetimes, especially usually 3 to 7 lifetimes of hard work and a lot of instability, a lot of stuff, because that's a major battle going on there. But
basically what you're talking about is 1,000 watts of energy preparing to come into this light bulb, but the light bulb through lifetimes is building up its wattage capacity, so that at some point the soul can begin to come into the light bulb, if you will, without blowing it up.
Yeah, and then what you become, well, besides being an actualized person, is you become a soul infused personality. So then your very highest aspects of yourself are now reflected in your physical body here on the physical plane. Now, we're all imperfect human beings, and we're a long way from that for most of us. But see, we're very quickly trending toward that ultimate conflict and togetherness. That's what's happening in the planet now. Right. The whole idea of going from the 6th ray constellation to the 7th is an actual symbolic representation of this conflict.
So let's say a Ray 2 soul, what would you say my personality is? Well, yeah, intuitively. Why don't you tell? Yeah.
Really, I would say you're either a 3 or a 4. If I know in you like I do, because you have a very analytical mind, but of course you're also extremely intuitive. Those two, when you can match them together in the personality and the mental nature, it's a very powerful combination.
Well, I definitely know my mental body. My mental body is Ray 5.
Yeah, I think so.
I could definitely see Ray 4 being the personality.
Yep, I do too. And the Ray 4 is the harmony through conflict. You're matching things.
Oh, God, that's my life.
And then the analytical qualities of a 5th ray person. We all know scientific types, and they're very focused. And sometimes they're focused so much they seem cold. They're not really cold. It's just their ability to focus is so intense that for the rest of us, we go, wow, you're not very friendly.
Right. Yes.
But it's not about being friendly. It's the way their mind works. When we understand this about the various people around us, again, our compassion is more easily grown. But so for you, in your case, I would definitely think that you're a 5th ray mental body. As far as your emotional body, I would say it's probably a 6th ray, an idealistic body.
6.
That's also very powerful.
I do express those more difficult qualities of Ray 6, I find, because I can attach to an idea and become very passionate about it.
Ray 6 can be very fanatical. That's why you have the schisms in the world now between the world religions, whether it be traditional Western religion and Islam or Hindu, whatever. You have a schism between all these religions because these are 6th ray people are so idealistically inclined that they see the very highest possibility of good. And so they strive for that, whether it's attainable or not.
I am very idealistic.
And so when a person in their deepest self believes they know the actual highest level, the best, it's going to be hard to pull them off of that. In fact, no mental argument is going to do it.
Well, in astrology, I have Moon, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter all in Leo. And Leo can be very idealistic and very over the top. So, and so for my physical body, so we've covered the soul, the personality, the umbrella, and then we get to the mental body and the emotional body. And so the physical body, you could say Ray 7.
I would say Ray 7. The physical body for human beings, unless it's a very rare instance of a master, is going to be either Ray 3 or 7. And there's reasons for this we won't get into tonight.
Right.
There's technical reasons for that. But on your case, I would definitely say it's a 7th ray. And the reason why, your body is sensitive, right? You're etherically sensitive. And so that would tell me a 3rd ray physical body can still be very etherically sensitive, but it's a little bit more physically rugged, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, versus the 7th ray. There's great aspects to both. I mean, the planet we live on is people don't realize it's not just people that have ray qualities. Everything is an entity. So a country is an entity. Countries have rays. The United States is a 2nd ray soul and a 6th ray personality.
Ray personality.
Canada is a 1st ray soul and a 2nd ray soul and a 1st ray personality. So each one of these, when you go through history, you can look at the interaction between countries over the ages. And when you understand their ray characteristics, you say, well, this is why these people were against each other, and this is why these people were allies throughout the centuries, because their ray qualities match. When you meet someone who has similar ray qualities to yourself, you get an instant liking for that person, right? You just say, wow, I mean, and then along more different lines, whether it be the mental, physical, as these rays match up more and more, not only physically, but etherically and on the mental bodies as well, you know, you meet that rare person who you just say, there's a connection here like none I've ever experienced. Yeah, it's healing.
Yeah. So speaking of healing, how do the 7 rays interact and work through your healing modality? So this life stream healing, where do the rays come in specifically?
Well, triplicities, 3s are, of course, as you know, important throughout everything. When I'm healing, and anybody can do it, I first have to identify the area where I think the person needs healing. And I can do that through an interview. I can do it through my own intuition, a combination of the two usually. Anyway, I get an idea of where they need healing. And that can be physical, emotional, or whatever. Once I understand, okay, let's say I'm working on somebody and I notice they've got a low kidney, which is pretty common today, actually. I'll see that I can actually do healing on that by combining 3 of these chakras in such a manner to run the energy through them in such a way and then pour it onto the kidney.
So what are some things that people come to you for to be in their healing process?
Well, I work on people physically, of course, as best I can, you know, all types of complaints, whether it be inflammation or such as that. Emotional healing, you know, your emotional body or also composed of chakras. This is the quantum nature of these chakras. They're entangled between the physical, the emotional, and the mental. They're all entangled, but also though, you have to look at them as like a separate wave, if you will, and you have to look at them separately, but realizing that they interact. This is about like the alignment I gave earlier about, you know, bringing the energy down. Anyone can do this. And then as you do this and begin, first of all, I would tell people, don't project that energy anywhere except in your own aura. And so when you bring the energy down from your soul through your crown and through your heart and then back out your third eye, project that energy around yourself like in a bubble. That's self-healing. You can do that anytime. And then as you begin to get a feel for that, you can, with care, begin to work on people. But I'm now going to teach full-time, going to teach these methods of healing. There's 7 main levels of it. What I just gave today was the beginning of the first, what I call envelope of that healing.
Sure. So people come to you and could come to you with a host of different types of symptoms. They could be going through spiritual awakening. They could be dealing with a trauma in the body. From what it sounds like, you can identify energies in the aura, not just in the physical body, because it's all entangled, and you work in that multidimensionality, I should say. Correct?
Right. That's right. And you can work on people on different levels. Just this is not Reiki energy, but I'll use that as an example. You can Reiki energy safe, a good safe, and this energy is safe as well. I'm not saying that it's not. But these two are not the same energies. And I've tried to incorporate, because I'm a Reiki master as well, and they do not incorporate. You can work on different areas of a person, whether it be emotional, mental, traumatic experiences, etc. I work with some people that have PTSD in particular. I just work with a lot of different people on different levels. What I found is once a person is aligned, the initial alignment in live stream healing, it just happens naturally after that. I mean, you are like aligned, and it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you do it, I mean, you're not going to forget. Your body remembers how to do it, and you'll find yourself automatically creating this alignment while you meditate, moments of stress, whatever. So,
well, Scott, tell everyone where we can find you, so that if someone wants to book a session or a reading with you, how can they do that?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on Instagram under Livestream Healing or Scott Robinson. I also have a page on Facebook called Psychic Scott Robinson. My numbers and emails and everything are at each one of those places. You can reach me at livestreamhealings at gmail.com.
Well, I really thank you for being here. This is a lot of information for people to digest, and they can handle it, but it's a lot. So if you
Yes.
have more questions, please reach out to Scott at lifestreamhealing.com. He is a healer, psychic, and medium, and he works here in Atlanta, Georgia for the inner space. And you can, if you're in the Atlanta area, you can work with him in person as well. I'm also the in-house intuitive astrologer for Eclipse over Roswell here in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you all are into astrology or want to get more in contact with us in person, feel free to come to class. I teach class every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join on Zoom or in person, and you can go to eclipseoverroswell.com. Also, if you'd like to book a reading with me, you can go to my website. That's ChrystopherWithAYmedium.com, and all of my information is there for you. And if you're not already following me on Instagram and Facebook, you absolutely should at the.astromedium. And do not forget to like and subscribe below and hit the bell so you can receive more content when I upload it. All right, thank you so much for being here with me, Scott. I really appreciate you. And again, I hope we can do this again, and I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you.